Here's medial rotation of the hip. And it's done by these muscles on the side here, tensor fascia and glute medius. There's also some other muscles that are kind of underneath the that tendon that was there, that first muscle, that muscle called the tensor fascia. They're the glute minimus and medius, and these muscles also help to internally rotate the hip. That means turn the hip toward the center of your body. Okay, so here's an example of external rotation. So I'm turning the hip out, and then this is an example of internal rotation. And I can't get really in there a lot because I got some tightness from a walk that I did today. And same thing on this side. Boom, that's turning out. Let's turn it in. All right. So now, what are some of the causes of that tightness to those muscles that I was showing you? Has to do with I showed you some muscles that internally rotate the hip. And here again, what that looks like is, so this bone being turned in like that. Okay. And then without this, if the screw wasn't here, I could put it in there and it would just rotate around like that. Boom. All right, and we talked, and I showed you the pictures of the muscles that do that. I showed you also how mine are tight, but it could be tight not only for what's going on with those muscles, but maybe also some things that might be going on with my pelvis. Took a walk today, maybe my obliques and all that kind of stuff is having some challenges. So let's look at what those things are. Let's look at the muscles that control the obliques. Here's a cross section of all the muscles that touch the pelvis. And if any one of those muscles are not working well, then they may have an impact on how much movement your pelvis has while walking. The pelvis needs to have a little rotation while walking, and some also abduction and adduction. And there's muscles that are pulling up, there's muscles that are rotating. Not a big rotation, but just enough to get the stride going. So all that's kind of put together, this up and down and side to side movement. If those muscles aren't working well, then if those oblique muscles and all those muscles that control the pelvis are not working well, then the rotation in the pelvis may not be there, and then that might also cause a problem with the stride, and then make the muscles that are on the hip have to do more work. Kind of like what you see with me with the tight, which can create that tightness in those muscles that internally rotate the hip. Okay, so we're going to see what we can do to kind of get those muscles to loosen up a little bit. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to start with my pelvis and see what happens there. Now we're talking about the pelvis here, and it's, maybe these oblique muscles here aren't working very well. Maybe through the walk they got fatigued. There's also muscles in the back. We're going to show you later what you can do with those, but boom, so I can just turn this like this and get these muscles to turn on. Boom. Come back. I did that in a previous video. Boom, hitting those oblique muscles there that kind of rotate the lumbar spine a little bit. Boom, right there. And boom. Now I can also, those same muscles that I was talking about, we could do a little bit of that right there, pulling up on the pelvis from the rear. Boom. Quadratus lumborum. Boom. And basically any of the lateral flexors of the hip, of the spine. Boom, boom. Kind of trying to loosen those things up. Boom.